If you know the date of your death, what would you do the day before? Would you ask for a favor? Would you ask for one last wish? In many places around the world, it is customary ritual to fulfill the one last wish of a prisoner who is on a death row. Normally, the jail authorities do grant the convict one last wish, like one last meal of his choice. Here are some of the strangest requests ever made by the convicts. He requested for a single olive with the pit for his last meal, as he hoped that it would grow into an olive tree inside his body. He was hanged in the year 1963 for kidnapping and murder. He was the last person to be executed in Iowa. What makes his last wish unique is the fact that he decided to spend his last hours watching the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. He was charged with 2 counts of murder. Of course, that his last wish was granted, as you cannot say no to the Lord of the Rings. Instead of some fancy last meal, he asked for a lump of dirt, allegedly so that he could carry out a voodoo ritual. This time, his wish was not granted, as the authorities simply refused to provide him with a lump of dirt. He wanted to die of diabetes before he could be executed, and therefore had 18 servings of Coca-Cola and Pepsi and 3 helpings of chocolate ice cream before his execution. He was a dangerous serial killer who was convicted of the rape and murder of 21 people. However, his trick did not work, as it was lethal injection and not diabetes that took his life. He wanted a large vegetarian pizza to be given to a homeless person, but his request was denied. Although he was a murderer, he still seemed to have a big heart. After his execution, people throughout the country began a campaign to give vegetarian pizzas to the homeless people in his honor. As his last supper, he wanted to have the Eucharist, or the Lord's Supper. While he was in the prison, he became a really devout Christian. Just like the disciples of Jesus, he had bread and wine for his last supper too. He did not want to have any special meal, but rather requested for justice, equality and world peace. He had the most meaningful last wish ever, even though he did some horrible things. Towards the end of his life, he became a completely different man. Unfortunately, the prison officials could not fulfill his last wish. He ordered for more than 10 food items for his last meal, including triple bacon cheeseburger, 2 chicken fried steaks with gravy and onions, a cheese and beef omelette, tomatoes, a meat lover's pizza, bell peppers, jalapenos, a bowl of okra, 1 pound of barbecue meat, half a loaf of bread, 3 fully loaded fajitas, 3 root beers, a pint of ice cream and a slab of peanut butter fudge. However, when the lavish meal finally arrived, he decided not to have it. Even his request for the last meal proves what kind of a wicked man he was. He asked to be allowed to touch jail doctor's feet as a last wish. He was found guilty of the rape and murder of a 14-year-old girl. The night before he was hanged, the inmates sang songs to make him feel a bit relaxed. As his last wish, actually, he gave commands to the soldiers for his own execution. He was one of the most respected commanders in Napoleon's army, but after the defeat of Waterloo, he was captured and tried for treason and was found guilty. He refused to wear a blindfold and insisted upon giving the order to fire himself. His last wish was granted.